so much of our lives inside. Either in traffic at work or close eyes. How about we all agree that it's way overdue to take back our lives? I can work wherever now. You can work wherever now. Take your guard and let it down, 'cause you can work wherever now. Take your guard and let it down, 'cause you can work wherever now.
What's up, guys? Welcome on into the Work Wherever podcast. I'm your host, Roy Edwards, and this is the podcast where we talk about technology, tech trends, artificial intelligence, collaborative intelligence, the ability to work wherever so you can live every day like it is Saturday. And today is a special episode because I got Sydney here.
Hi.
And Sydney is my co-host, and when she's not echoing, she contributes a lot to the show. So welcome on in, Sid.
Thanks.
Today's episode is going to be what? What are we doing today?
We're going to do like a wrap up. Put a little bow on all of our favorite topics from 2022.
That's right. It is the end or beginning. It's either the beginning of 23 or the end of 22, however you want to say. But we are going to talk about the year that was, our favorite moments, or, lack thereof, I guess.
Should we do some predictions for 2023?
I like that.
Well?
We can do some predictions. We can definitely do some predictions. So we're going to kind of talk about our favorite or not so favorite moments of the year.
They all seem pretty bad.
They're pretty bad. Not going to lie. I was going through the articles. Guys, there aren't many good ones. So, which we'll start. How do you want to start? You want to start? How about you start? I'll let you start. You can kick this off. Ladies first.
All right. So, when I think of like the beginning of this year, at least a lot of what I was focusing on, or a lot of things that I was finding was like the Great Resignation.
The Great Resignation.
A lot of like the news articles that I would send out newsletters on had to do with that.
We've kind of forgotten about that.
Yeah. Moved past.
We've kind of moved past that because now here at the end of the year, we're kind of seeing the inverse, where we're seeing all of these layoffs. Right. And so the focus has been on the 20 to 30,000 people that have been laid off by big tech and how awful that is. But we forget that at the beginning of this year, it was the other way around, where we had the Great Resignation, where
the last couple of years, really.
Yeah. 2022, the beginning of the year, was definitely still part of the Great Resignation, where you had people just leaving their jobs willy-nilly, and
which might still be the case too for non-tech
definitely
companies.
Still is. The Great Resignation has not died out. It's just not the headlines that it was January, February of this year. The beginning of this year definitely started with the Great Resignation, which was then followed up by what do they call it? Quiet quitting.
Right.
Which quiet quitting was people who quit their jobs but just hadn't told anybody yet and were just chilling, receiving a paycheck. So all of that, when you take into the Great Resignation and you take into quiet quitting, and then you look at like Elon, who was very vocal about his layoffs and saying that people weren't doing anything, and then you look at the 30,000 people who have been laid off during this major tech bubble burst. That is definitely something that I think 2022 will be remembered for. Great Resignation for sure. Which the Great Resignation was people leaving for placing personal wellness, right, above their current positions, which to your point came a lot out of COVID. COVID locked us in our houses, literally, and then we had to focus on what was most important to us. Was it our health, our family, or?
I was a part of it. I did it early this year.
Yeah.
And then I came out here.
You were part of the Great Resignation.
Yeah.
So what went into your thought process? Like, what were you looking for?
Definitely, like, personal well-being, state of mind. I just got to the point where I wanted, like, my time back to do things a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think COVID did that to a lot of people. where it was no more. I know that personally, prior to 2020, I was in an office space. We had an office, and I would go to the office and I would go work. Now, I was a remote employee, so I don't mean to make it seem like I was some 9 to 5 every day in the office type person, because I wasn't. But I'll never go back to an office again. I might, if we've talked about setting up an office for us as a business again, where we can hold like trainings and do things like that. But we will never be a 9 to 5 office organization. We would just have a location similar to this studio, although for those of you who don't know, the studio is in my house. This is my basement. So it's an area in my basement. It's not like I have some studio that I built, at a warehouse or something like that. This is in my house. So I'll forever be a work from home. I'll never go back. And COVID just stamped that for me.
Right.
Reminder of what's important. Going, eating dinner with the family, being home, not driving in the dark to and from work. Those are all things that played into it. And I think that 2022, there's an article that I have pulled up that says, well, that's not it, but it says what the work, they say work anywhere, probably because we have trademarked work wherever.
I'm always surprised. I hear work from wherever, work anywhere, but I did see it actually the other day, though.
Trademark pending. Yeah, I know.
I sent you a picture.
After you sent me that picture, I was like, oh no. Reached out to my trademark people.
Work whenever.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, work from anywhere takes off, says this article. Which I do think that is, when we really think about COVID or the pandemic or the last 2 years, whatever you want to call it, because really 2022 is coming to an end, but this is kind of the post-COVID pandemic year. This was the first year that we really opened up as a world.
right.
Certain countries had already kind of opened up, and but this year was back to normal-ish as a year. And I think that's what this year and the last 2 years will really be known for, is kind of but the acceleration and the promotion of work wherever and the remote work culture, which I think, so you're asking like what's next? I think the 4-day work week is next. I think the 0-day work week is next. I think that we're going to see this acceleration of artificial intelligence in the workplace through collaborative intelligence. Hopefully, please God, hopefully they listen to this podcast and they take it as collaborative intelligence. And I think that we're only going to see more. So this article that I'm reading says working from anywhere takes off. With which, it says either been maintained or have 95% of organizations have reported a positive improvement over remote work, with 80% of companies involved saying they would stick to a 4-day work week beyond the end of their trial. So
it mentions 4-day work week as well.
It does. So I think the 4-day work week, work wherever, work anywhere, remote work, whatever you want to call it, the whole premise of this podcast, this was really I don't want to say it was the introduction of it, because it's been here for a while,
right.
But this was kind of the global kickoff party, where we've moved into a global economy. Now, if you think that's a good or a bad thing, I'll leave that for another podcast, but we have opened up the global economy to allow for people to be working anywhere, which work wherever. I think that's a good thing. And if you're listening to this podcast, you probably think it's a good thing too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, rise of quitting, quiet quitting, I think they're all related.
Definitely.
The 4-day work week, quiet quitting, the Great Resignation, I think those are all related. Definitely something that the last 2 years and 2022 will be remembered for.
Collaborative intelligence. I mean, it all goes together. Makes it easier for you to work from
absolutely,
wherever.
100%. Now, it's not all good, and it wasn't all a good year. I'll get into another big news that happened this year, and that was Twitter confirmed the completion of Elon Musk's $44 billion acquisition deal, which...
And depending on who you are, it is good or bad news.
Depending on who you are. I
think it's good.
I think it's probably a good thing too, but this was definitely took up a lot of the headlines in 2022, which Elon Musk buying Twitter. First, it was rumored that he was going to buy it, and then there was the huge cover-ups that social medias in general did of pushing down articles that had to do with political elections and the cover-ups that the big tech did. What was it?
And their families.
Yeah, I mean, there was so much around big technology and the suppressing of news articles,
right,
and cover-ups and the different election news that were being posted of the different elections, whether it was the November elections of 21 or the presidential elections of 20. It all kind of came out in 22, which kind of prompted Musk to
banning people and
right
all these things.
Which the 45th, our 45th president is still actually, he just got lifted.
Yeah.
Hasn't tweeted yet. No matter how much Elon pokes at him to tweet.
Have you read some of his tweets? I think they're so funny.
Who?
Elon Musk.
Yeah, I have an alert whenever he tweets.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love for a while he had his location as just hell.
Was it?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm not like some huge Elon Musk fan.
Right.
I actually think that he's a pretty bad person. I think that he is more bad than good. I don't think that he thinks that. But I think a lot of what he's doing with some of the things that he talks about and a lot of the podcasts that he went on this year.
I think he's less bad than some people.
I don't think there's a whole lot of good in the world right now.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of what he's trying to do, like the whole Neuralink, putting brain chips in people's heads so that they become robots, and I think that's terrible. I think that's a really bad thing to move. Now,
and that's a lot of like, I feel like when I searched like tech 2023 predictions, I came up with like a lot of AI,
yeah,
a lot of like metaverse,
yeah,
yeah, a lot of VR
came
up for me. It's interesting.
I think all that stuff is gimmicky, except for artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, collaborative intelligence, machine learning has been the future for a while. Mm-hmm. This like VR trends, I think it's more of like the gaming industry. And this might sound weird, but stick with me, guys. A lot of the tech trends that we see from a consumer basis stems from the porn industry. And that's like a weird thing to think about. But generally speaking, the porn industry usually pushes the web. And this is going to sound weird too. Wrestling, WWE, pushes the sports industry. They're kind of the trial grounds for consumerism and technology as it pushes. If you look at the XFL, the original XFL, cameras, the suspended camera, the cameras and microphones in the huddle, that all came from the XFL before it went into the NFL. All came from the XFL. Same with wrestling. A lot of that scripted stuff, a lot of that, a lot of those technologies that came from wrestling and we saw it put into sports thereafter. The porn industry has done a lot with VR. Now, I will say I don't participate in that, but for those that do,
it's interesting.
It's interesting, and I keep an eye on it because it's tech.
Do you have a VR?
I do not have a VR.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know that they have pushed a lot of their VR interactive crap. And you're starting to see it. That's been happening for years. And you're starting to see it more so now in everyday life. So I would not be surprised to see more VR and consumerism, like how things are being done and the purchasing of things.
I can see where you're coming from though, for sure.
Yeah, I think that I think it'll be more augmented reality than virtual reality.
It is weird though. Have you ever watched like Black Mirror?
Yeah, I've seen a few episodes, but I don't. We've talked about this. I don't like it.
We have a little bit, but some of them do go into like a lot of them like start to wrap up into like you have like chips in your brain.
Yeah.
And your memory is stored in this little tiny thing, and then you can go back and replay it, and your whole consciousness is on like a little
I mean,
chip.
if you think about it, if we were able to store memories, because the brain is really a computer, it's a natural computer, but that is where we get a lot of our artificial intelligence, is from studying of the brain and how it works.
Right.
And so if we're able to store memories, maybe we could cure what is the Alzheimer's. Because you forget things, right? That's what Alzheimer's is. It's just like your memory. I mean, there's a lot more to it, but maybe you could load up your memories again. Who knows?
I feel like when people think of like technology in the future, like that is like what comes to my mind specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting, like to go back and see what people thought like
It is
the
interesting.
year 2020 would be like, but
Yeah,
that's what
robots.
comes to my mind. So
Baseball players. There was a baseball game that I played when I was little called Super Baseball 2020, and like half the players were robots. And the umpires were
flying
robots,
cars
which
and whatnot.
the MLB announced that they were going to implement robotic umpires.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's I don't
The
like
robotic strike zone. I think it's just in the minor leagues for
that.
now,
Interesting.
but yeah, that's part of the trend. So Elon buying Twitter was definitely a huge. I mean, Elon controlled the headlines this year, at least the second half of the year,
For sure.
with SpaceX launches going to Mars. The launch of their artificial intelligence bot, what was it called, Optimus, the purchasing of Twitter, and then just everything that has happened.
Starlink over
Starlink.
Ukraine. And
That's right. I forgot about Ukraine. Yeah, he powered Ukraine through Starlink. I mean, Elon, this was definitely.
China now, right?
Yeah.
Or until recently.
This was definitely the year of Elon. Elon was definitely. I mean, I don't know who was the People Man of the Year or whatever. Did they do that, or Time
Gosh.
Man of the Year?
Let's see.
I mean, if it's not Elon,
Person
then
of the year. I doubt it is. It's
it-
probably some
for
obscure.
political reasons, it's probably not Elon. But some of the stuff that he did was not always great. But if you really want to talk about Man of the Year, who controlled the year, it was Elon. Does that say Zelensky?
Yeah.
As in Ukraine,
Okay.
the president of Ukraine?
That may. Okay.
I could see that.
I don't mind that.
Yeah, I could totally see that.
I do not mind that.
I could see that. And Elon assisted Zelensky through Starlink. So there, if we're talking about technology, so I think that Elon definitely controlled a lot of the headlines. His biggest headlines of the year were what? SpaceX
Joe Rogan's on there.
Going to
DeSantis,
Mars.
Joe Biden, Putin. So pretty much every
Everybody.
world leader that you can think of.
Just big names.
Hmm.
Rogan, nice.
That's interesting because he's in the category with leaders.
Well, he is
It
a
is all
thought
political
leader.
people and then Joe Rogan.
He is for sure a thought leader.
Mhm.
Which Elon was on Rogan talking about the future of tech and how he believes artificial intelligence needs to be regulated and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he's working to put microchips in your brain. So, who knows if he's a good guy or not. I don't know. He's still yet to be seen on Elon. But purchasing Twitter for $44 billion was definitely a huge headline of this year. And it definitely is not over. We're not done reading about Twitter and everything that is to come, which a lot of that had to do with FTX, which I know that you're not a big into the crypto world, but
I don't understand it still.
we can't do an end of year wrap up without mentioning FTX founder.
Go for it. I've
So
seen the memes, but I don't
yeah,
quite know.
the guy. First off, who trusts this guy with that much money?
A lot of celebrities.
It's
apparently.
crazy. The guy is a fraud. Literally is a fraud. But I mean, I don't know. This guy his name is Sam Bankman-Fried or Freed. People call him SBF, which he's in a lawsuit right now for, I believe, $11 billion. Yeah. FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried or Freed, or who cares, SBF, has been named in an $11 billion proposed class action lawsuit that alleges the sale of unregistered securities and fraud. Numerous celebrities, endorsers of FTX and its tokens, because basically FTX existed for the purchase of small tokens. So Bitcoin had its big boom. Everybody's heard of Bitcoin. And his idea, like the promotion of FTX, was basically like selling penny stocks. So if you think of, have you seen The Wolf of Wall Street?
I hate that movie.
You hate The Wolf of Wall
Don't
Street?
like it. It's so long.
It's a great movie.
Men love that movie.
Maybe.
I hate
You're
that
probably
movie.
right. What was
do.
his name though?
Leonardo DiCaprio. Oh, the real one?
Yeah.
Jordan Belfort.
Jordan Belfort. So Jordan Belfort, SBF is essentially the Jordan Belfort of crypto, except he looks like an idiot, and he's just a huge nerd that has zero to no communication skills and just got played basically. So as much as Jordan Belfort was like a shark, SBF was played. So I don't know if he means well or not. A lot of the stuff that you see is coming out right now, where he's playing all of this like, oh, we have to take care of your consumers and we got to make sure that we do things that are right and da-da-da. That is script. This guy is feeding you lies. But I believe that he was played. But Jordan Belfort, what he did was he took the stock market and manipulated people into purchasing penny stocks. That's like that's how he got rich, and then he embezzled money and he had all kinds of fraud and did all kinds of evil, messed up things outside of it, right? Mm-hmm. But he manipulated people into purchasing these stocks that were crap stocks, you know? That's essentially what SBF did, but in crypto.
I see.
So instead of you buying Bitcoin or Litecoin or Ethereum or any of these established coins, so that you may or may not have heard of. You've heard of Bitcoin.
The one with the dog.
Dogecoin,
Yes,
or dog, but Dogecoin is another penny coin. So Dogecoin is essentially it's crap. It's without getting too deep into the technology and everything behind it. It's a coin that somebody made as a joke. Quite literally, Dogecoin was created as a joke, and it just got a bunch of celebrity people to pump it up, including Elon on Twitter, you know, and so. But it was a penny coin. It started at like pennies of pennies, and got up to almost $1, and then crashed. Well, FTX, basically the whole foundation of FTX and what he was trying to push was basically like everybody can have a coin, kind of a thing. And he presented it as like the people's thing. But he created, without getting too deep into the whole thing that happened, was he had control of the own bank, giving himself loans on coins that he created that he was selling through his own platform. No. And it was basically fraud. And now it's getting all brought out that he was selling money and loaning money against money that he wasn't even supposed to do in his own bylaws, and he's getting caught up. And he was taking all kinds of, I mean, just fraud. He was taking money from people, convincing them to buy these penny stocks, which were penny coins, and then just frauding on them. And so here are some of the people that he convinced, because they don't know. Cryptocurrency is so advanced when you're trying to explain it to somebody, because of the whole BitLocker and everything around it. It gets very confusing if you don't understand. Even stocks is confusing. Yeah. And you see people still get taken advantage of that. Mm-hmm. So the whole idea behind the blockchain and everything is confusing. And so here are some people that got caught up in cryptocurrency.
They're big names.
Huge names.
Yeah.
Tom Brady, Giselle, Kevin O'Leary, who's that? Udonis Haslem, David Ortiz.
Kevin O'Leary is like one of the Shark Tank people, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go.
Steph Curry, Shaquille O'Neal, Trevor Lawrence, who was the number 1 overall pick 2 years ago in the NFL, plays quarterback for the Jaguars. Shohei Ohtani, I think that is the pitcher. Can you look this up? I think he's the pitcher for the the Los Angeles Angels. ShoheiOhtani.
Baseball player.
He is, right? He's for the Angels.
Yep.
So he's essentially the best player in Major League Baseball right now. He is a DH and a pitcher. He was the AL MVP. He is MLB's poster child right now. Best player in baseball. He's caught up in this. Larry David. You know who Larry David is.
Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Curb Your Enthusiasm, Seinfeld. I mean, huge name.
Right.
And then Naomi Osaka. I don't know who Naomi Osaka. Look up who Naomi Osaka is. I guarantee it's another huge name. And all of these people not named here. Oh, right there.
Japanese tennis player. So a lot of sports. People.
In connection with at least $1 billion in customer funds disappearing from the exchange. $1 billion just up and vanished out of. So we're putting money, us, you and I, we're buying these penny stocks, penny cryptos, coins, that we are being convinced by these huge names, and then $1 billion just poof, goes away. No idea where it went. Also named is the Golden State Warriors, the basketball team.
The whole team.
Who had they said that FTX was the official trading platform of the Golden State Warriors, and their stadium was FTX Stadium. They had the naming rights.
No.
So huge fraud. There will be a movie about this that will be similar to the Wolf of Wall Street. That will be about FTX. Now, there are the conspiracy theories out there that, and I will just very briefly review this in conspiracy theory because I don't want to get down too much into it, but that Joe Biden and the U.S. government was been giving money to Ukraine. FTX was connected with Ukraine, so you could say that the money, well, this is the conspiracy.
I've not heard this one.
That U.S. aid money that was going to Ukraine was then funneled into FTX through cryptocurrency to as an investment through Ukraine. Then the FTX and what is the SBF was the Democratic Party's #1 donor. I think of the tune to like $700 million. And then after they donated $700 million, here, fact check that for me. How much money did FTX give to the Democratic Party? The day after they donated the money, filed for bankruptcy. So they're saying that this is the total conspiracy, that the United States government gave money to Ukraine, Ukraine then put money into FTX, and then FTX then funneled that money back into the Democratic Party. To the tune of how much money? I don't remember how much it is. $700 million. Now, I'm reading an article right now that says, verify no evidence crypto company FTX laundered Ukraine aid money to Democrats. There's no evidence of it. But it is certainly a question that is out there that I would not be surprised to find out that it is real, because this guy is a huge fraud. Huge fraud.
Yeah, I don't know the exact number, but he literally said himself, the guy, he planned to spend anywhere between $100 million and $1 billion to assist influence in the campaigns for 2024.
I believe $700 million was the final number that I saw.
Insane.
So
That they're just straight up saying that.
whether or not you believe that the Ukraine money was used and funneled through FTX into the Democratic, fraud money was. Because $1 billion just up and vanished. And then you have upwards of $1 billion, 700 million is what I saw, that was funneled into the Democratic Party through FTX in this fraud. So Congress, we are waiting to see if Congress is going to look, how deep they're going to look into this. There are allegations of civil conspiracy here. There is a House lawmakers probe. So the U.S. House Financial Services Committee said it will hold a hearing this year, in December, on the FTX collapse, and the House, in a statement released November of this year, is seeking answers about the platform's financial ruin. The hearing will call some of the major players involved in this fiasco. So we are not done with this. This is kind of like, if we're talking about year in review, this is definitely like end of year that happened. But the bottom line, FTX continues its downward spiral, which the guy, this guy who he's going and speaking on these major shows. He's going and speaking at conferences right now. Right now. And they're asking him these questions like, did you commit fraud? And he's like, oh, I'm really sorry. And you're like,
oh no.
Yeah, the guy is I don't know who is advising him to go speak at these conferences and to keep doing these media rounds, but it is not good. So that will probably be more so 2023, because the hearings and everything like that that's going to happen is definitely going to take over the first quarter of next year. But crazy. Then when you get into fraud, Elizabeth Holmes.
Well, pop culture. Same kind of thing, though.
Super. I mean, so there's a show on HBO, which I know you're big into your HBO shows.
Hulu. Actually, it was great. It's called The Dropout.
This was?
The Dropout?
That is
about her?
It's about her?
Yeah.
So there's
Did you watch it?
No, I didn't watch The Dropout.
Oh. Yeah, it was great.
You've seen it?
Yeah.
So she is a dropout. So tell me about this show, Hulu, because there's an HBO show that goes over the blood pill that she...
So Elizabeth Holmes, she started a company back in, I want to say, like the early mid-2000s.
Yeah.
She dropped out of college. She didn't actually graduate. Let's see.
She started
Theranos. She started a company.
in 2003.
She had this idea, right? Yeah. And people didn't really get behind it, but she was all about it. So she dropped out of college. She started this company called Theranos, which is a blood testing company.
Yep. She started at the age of 19, so you're right. She dropped out of college at the age of 19.
She was like the youngest billionaire named, and they later revoked that from her, saying basically that she had no money at all.
So she raised $945 million from an impressive list of investors, including media mogul Rupert Murdoch.
She had stores in Walgreens, little centers in Walgreens. Basically, the whole thing is that
Walmart got back behind her. Yep.
She never actually had a product.
She was never able actually
the entire time. They were never able to have a successful product. They were cherry picking results and kind of faking it. They faked it with like cancer patients.
Yeah.
Wild story. But somehow she just this blonde girl, and she was able to get these huge companies behind her and continue giving her a lot of money.
Massive fraud. So the company began to unravel after a Wall Street Journal investigation in 2015 found.
Yeah, so one of her younger employees, which is the grandson of one of her bigger supporters.
Investors,
I want to say like a U.S. congressman or something like that. Senator, I forget the name. But he was the grandson, and he ended up working there. And him and another girl reported it because they found out basically they were just using like these Siemens machines behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Doing their work
Doing
instead.
blood
and they
testing.
were picking, what they wanted their results to be. So they ended up reporting it. It was a wild story, but...
Yeah, so it says, here, I'll read part of this article. This is from CNN Business. It says, the investigation, the Wall Street Journal investigation of 2015 found the company had only ever performed roughly a dozen of the hundreds of tests it offered using its proprietary blood testing device, which that was their whole thing was that they could use this blood...
This tiny little device that you could have in any store instead of having to do these huge, things. And it would test for a bunch of other things, too.
And basically find out what's wrong with you.
Right.
And it could, in theory, cure any disease, right? So it was... The idea behind this was like shattering, and she was everywhere, right? I believe there's one interview where they did where somebody's just totally fanboying her and being like, you are our generation's like hero and all. Well, maybe we'll try and find that.
It's wild. So they recreate, these scenes from her company, and it's just like insane how
crazy.
Like the culture in there.
So in 2016, Theranos voided 2 years of blood test results, And then in 2018, Holmes and Theranos settled a massive fraud charges with the Securities and the Exchange Commission, but did not admit or deny any of the allegations as part of the deal. So this has been like just some ongoing thing, and it really blew up in her face this year as she was sentenced to 11 years in prison for fraud. Yep. So now at the age of 38, so almost 20 years of fraud. She started the company when she was 19. She's now 38. 20 years of fraud. So in July of this year, they were found guilty on all 12 charges in a separate trial and faces the same potential maximum prison sentence of her. That was Balwani, who was one of her partners, I guess, in it was her then boyfriend.
Yep, the whole time people didn't know about it. He ended up like taking over once she kind of got in trouble a little bit. People still didn't know that they were, dating. It's a wild story.
It was these two basically just duped, and they
just lied. And it shows you in the show as well. Like they maybe get like one actual result, like the one time it works, and they used it. Like when they were doing some big presentation, they faked it.
Yeah.
And then they just kept faking it and kept moving the dates and pretending. They used a lot of like NDAs and lawyers and things like that to say, oh, it's special information, like
covered
I
it
can't
up.
show you. Yeah, it was.
And people bought into it because, like you said, she's this blonde-haired, like tech. In the tech industry, you get more people who look like
George Schultz. His grandson was the one. He was one of her best friend's advisors, like on the board, who was the former U.S. Secretary of Treasury.
Oh my gosh.
So his grandson was the one who actually ended up like
finding it out.
Yeah.
Breaking the news.
Yep.
In the tech industry, you get more people who look like the FTX founder than you do the Theranos founder. So there are less Elizabeth Holmes. Nobody looks like Elizabeth Holmes in big tech. She's a good-looking, blonde-haired, thought to be genius, and so people bought into her, and they got behind her. In fact, even after all these allegations of fraud and proof of fraud, it says more than 100 people wrote letters in support of Holmes, asking for leniency in her sentencing.
Yeah, she very much like the other guy, the FTX guy. She just still kept doing interviews, kept like pushing.
And people
herself.
believed her because she's this good-looking blonde girl, not a 19-year-old success story dropout that everyone was buying into back then. I mean, you have still to this day. You have all these Instagram entrepreneurs that are like, I dropped out of college. And that's the Facebook story of Zuckerberg. He was a college dropout. You have, who was the founder of Napster?
I don't actually know, but Justin Timberlake in the movie.
Timberlake, right. He was I don't think he ever went to college. He just graduated high school and founded Napster.
Sean something.
Which he was actually.
Sean Parker. Nope.
He was actually the CEO, the first, or not the CEO. He was the first ever president of Facebook. Was whoever his name was. You'll find him, I'm sure. And he never went to college. So you have all this like Instagram entrepreneurs that are like drop out at which the guy who wrote. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name. He's a huge marketer. He is like kind of pushing like don't go to college. Gary Vaynerchuk. I gave you that book, Crushing It, actually. He pushes a lot. Don't go to college. Drop out. You don't need to go to college. Start a business, right? So there's this mindset behind people where it's like, I don't need to go to college, and so people.
Sometimes I do. Like I agree. Like you don't need to go to college.
I don't think you do.
Everything you need experience, right? I'm all for like technical colleges and things like that. We definitely need more of that.
If you're doing surgery on me,
please go to college.
You better have a doctorate.
Right.
Okay, you better have studied lengthy. If you're an entrepreneur, I don't care. If you're in the trades, oftentimes you can make more money not going to college. Enter into the trades. So I do think that it's a case by case basis. But my point is that you get all of these influencers that are looking for these unicorns.
Right.
They're like, And so they want someone to point to say, look how much of a success they were and they dropped out. That's where you get the Zuckerbergs and you get the Napster guy. You get Elizabeth Holmes. And so it's this good-looking blonde chick who dropped out of college, and so everybody wanted her to succeed. They wanted her to be the unicorn. They wanted her to be this success story, even after it had all been found out to be a fraud. And so she gets 11 years this year. So you have this. That's where we were saying there's so much fraud 2022. You have the Twitter, Facebook stuff that came out about them covering things up. You have Elizabeth Holmes sentenced to 11 years. You have this ongoing FTX stuff that I think is going to end really, really bad. And then you had the Great Resignation, quiet quitting, and on a positive note, the increase of work from home for people's well-being, which leads us to what we think 23 will look like. So we'll start with you. What do you think 23 looks like?
I mean, I think you touched on it a little bit. So definitely more of like a 4-day work week, definitely more results-based, production-based sorts of jobs and things like that.
I agree with you. I think that's the future. I think next year is going to be collaborative intelligence. Yep. I think we're going to see a lot more bots, so get used to it.
Oh yeah, I see more and more things about AI, collaborative intelligence, like every day.
This is over the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to see collaborative intelligence, artificial intelligence, automation is going to be a huge boom, and you're going to see bots everywhere, and everybody's going to be able to afford a bot. And when I say a bot, I mean these chatbots that are, processing orders, processing information, and delivering it to customers quicker, better, faster.
We've got a little bot.
We do have a little bot named Claudette.
Yep, right on your head there.
Oh, this is Claudette. Yeah, on my hat
She's
here.
so cute.
I know. I love Claudette.
You can dress her up. I need to change her.
You do need to change her. She's in her Thanksgiving stuff, right? Yeah, put a Santa hat on her. Post her on up there. But you'll see more of this. And the reason why I know this, well, you go to any conference and it'll say that. But if you look at the trends and the cost, so generally speaking, a lot of tech organizations will price out the everyday consumer because they want to essentially roll something out in a beta capacity to say, oh, we're going to price out everyone so that everyone can't get to it and break it so we can find out the bugs. And so Microsoft has a bot program called Power Virtual Agents, which is part of their Power Platform. So they have Power Apps, Power Automate. Power Automate is their automation tool, similar to a Zapier, if you guys are familiar with that. Then you have Power Apps, which is their low-code, no-code builder. So you can rapidly build applications with Power FX, which is their Power Functions language, what they came out with last year, which is similar to Excel. If you ever wrote an Excel function like equals sum this, similar language. So they're rolling out these tools to developers and the power users and the industry and saying, go build quicker, better, faster. And when Power Virtual Agents was first released 2 years ago, which we built a bot, as soon as it was released, we built. And back then in 2020, it was $1,000 a month to have a bot. Now I went in this week and it is $200 a month with $100 or $50 add-ins wherever you want, and there's more connectivities and more things. And so that number, the $200 a month, might even go down a little bit more. It might eventually be free, because if you look at Power Portals, which was their last thing to release, they did the same way. It was $1,000 a month, and now it's free. I don't even see a price tag associated with Power Portals in our environment. It might not be free. I might be wrong, but we have it for free. I went to go create one the other day, and there was no price tag associated with it. And I was like, okay, well, maybe they're hiding it, but it used to be right in your face, $1,000 a month.
Right, and that's definitely our focus. I know you sent out that letter the other day talking about the future of 2023.
That's
staying ahead of trends, and
that's it. The
automation.
The trends are Dataverse, which Dataverse is just quickly spun up SQL tables, essentially is what it is. It's a relational database service for all my tech heads out there. But it's quickly built tables and databases that you can deploy. That's what Dataverse Microsoft is doing, which if Microsoft's doing it, everybody's doing it, right? It's just the next wave of user-friendly cloud computing. And you're using that to build bots and automation. And if your company doesn't have a bot, this next year you will be looking into it, and you will probably have one because they are very quick to build. I just built another bot the other day. It took me 2 weeks, and I built it. It's fully functional, does all kinds of crazy things. So much so now the Power Virtual Agents, which if you guys want to learn more about this, go to our website, fill out the form. Let's talk about it. Let's have a real consultation of how we can build it. I'll give you a full demo of how it works. But Power Virtual Agents now, you can suggest a topic is what it's called. You copy a hyperlink. So if you go to capitalpresence.com/federal, you copy that link, you paste it into the bot under a suggested topic. It then uses artificial intelligence to crawl through that website you gave it and then suggest topics of conversation for the bot to talk about. So if then you could just type in federal government to the chatbot, and the chatbot will take the content from the website and spit it back to the person to be like, Capitol Presence services the Department of Defense and the U.S. military. All that it got from our website. So it is crazy, the amount of stuff that's all coming. 3 to 5 years, everybody will have a bot. We'll be ahead of it. We're already 2 years in. So if I'm 2 years in, then the big guys, it's, they're already ahead of me. I'm just trying to keep up.
I think we're doing good.
I think we're doing good too. But that's the year that was. And Happy New Year. Do you have any resolutions for 23?
I don't know yet.
You don't know? I don't do resolutions. I actually
thought about it.
I filled out for the Washington Business Journal, who hopefully we get Washington Business Journal. Best place to work again. 3 years in a row. The three-peat. 1,
That's a goal.
2, 3. That is a resolution of ours. But they sent me a thing like, what did you think about 2022? Like what were bad things that happened? What good things happened? And I was just like, look, like it was great for us.
Right.
We had a great year. Artificial intelligence, automation is on the rise. That's what we do. Before 2020, people laughed at us and were like, why would I want that? And now everybody wants it.
You need it.
We had 0 turnover on clients. We didn't lose a single client this year. So this was it was a great year for us. All growth. And, they were like, what went bad? I'm like, I didn't have, we were blessed this year. This was a great year for us. I kind of don't want 2022 to end. I thought this was a great year. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to 23 because of how good 22 was to us. I'm excited for it. I don't do resolutions, though. It asked in the Washington Business Journal, what my resolution was.
You should always have goals.
I don't do them. I don't do resolutions. I already got goals.
Right.
They're not, the new year does not dictate my resolutions, I don't do that. Now we have goals internally as an organization.
Sure.
Which we're 19 subscribers away from 400. At least we were this morning. So subscribe to our YouTube, guys.
Please, that's my goal.
That is your goal. I believe it was 400 by the end of the year. So help that out. Share it out so Sydney can get hers. Yeah, that's right. Go make 19 friends.
Oh, I will make sure.
We might have to just...
For my family members, I'll make them all a YouTube channel.
We might have to just, this holidays, let's just, hey, what do you want for Christmas? I want you to subscribe to my YouTube channel.
I'll do it.
There you go. Well, guys, go subscribe. So if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for subscribing. Hit the like, comment below what you thought. If you're listening on Spotify or iTunes, leave us a review. That's how we grow this podcast, how we grow this community. Speaking of communities, go to Facebook and go to the Go Work Wherever Facebook community. It's a private community, guys. Going on there, we share links, we share news, we have conversations about working wherever. We go live in there on this podcast as well, so you'll get podcasts, live podcasts where you can ask us questions and stuff like that and participate in the podcast. So yeah, anything to add, Sid?
I don't think so.
Nothing to add? Well, guys,
One day I'll have something.
What was that?
So one day I'll have something.
One day you'll have something. Hopefully you guys enjoyed 2022 as much as we did. Hopefully you are still enjoying this podcast. Thanks for hanging out. Wishing you and yours a great 2023. Happy New Year, and until next year.
Well, leave a comment, actually. If you have something that you ever want us to talk about, please leave a comment.
There you go. Please leave it below, and we'll tackle it.
If you get bored of listening to us talk about robots and
killer
whatnot,
robots.
leave a comment.
Yep. we'll tackle it next year, here in the new year of 2023. Happy New Year's, guys. Until next time. See you. Hey there. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for all the latest videos from Capital Presence.